Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I am so incredibly excited to be doing today's video. Today's video is all about how I studied for the Nbdhe, the National Dental Hygiene Exam. That is a written 350 question test that you have to take for your licensure at the end of your dental hygiene program experience. I am like 1,000,000% positive that I got an A on this exam, and that's because I studied so many different modalities so that I could let you guys know exactly what was the most beneficial. I studied Student Rdh, I studied dental hygiene seminars, I used some apps, I also studied Darby's comprehensive review, I did online reviews, and I wanted to make sure that I looked at every single different modality available so that I could give you guys the best possible information. And then I'm also going to be talking about how I actually studied. So the mechanics of how long did I do it, how did I organize it, and everything of that nature. So if you are interested in this highly requested video, just keep watching. Okay, so the very first thing that I am going to start talking about is the different modalities. You have so many different choices as we continue, and I'm sure even after this video is made, more choices are going to continue to be available. So I chose to actually do an in-person board review and Student Rdh, which is an online board review. And I'm going to explain to you the differences in both of those and everything like that. But one thing that I do want to preface is that as this video is being made, you could be watching this months down the road, even years down the road, and different packages and different things that are available are ever changing. So if I talk about a certain thing, definitely research it for yourself so that you know exactly what is available, because things are ever changing in this industry. The first thing that I want to talk about is my in-person board review, and for me, I used dental hygiene seminars. Dental hygiene seminars has actually been around for 30 years. They specifically, in differences that I've seen from other board review programs, is that they have teachers who are dentists and who are dental hygiene educators. Now, dental hygiene seminars did send me their new book from this year, and I did talk to them personally, but this video is not sponsored at all. I just wanted to give you guys the most updated information because my book that I had last year is, you know, not exactly what you're gonna get this year. They now have colored pictures. So last year, they didn't have colored pictures in my book, and that's what I love about these programs is they're ever changing, they're ever evolving to give you the best thing that they can give you. Even their diagrams and charts also have pictures, so I love that new feature in their books. And one thing that they do every year is that they come out with a new book. So a new book every single year with updated information. They're constantly improving the book, constantly listening to feedback from people, and that's what I did love about them. When I spoke with them in regards to getting this book on hand to show you guys in this video, the person that I spoke with was asking my opinion on the differences between this, and you know, we had a really good conversation. So I just know that this company is definitely dedicated to improving and providing you guys with the best possible information, and I just absolutely love this book. If I'm being completely honest, I love this book, and it goes through everything, and I'll talk about the differences in the books as well. So whenever you sign up for dental hygiene seminars and you register for their in-person board review, you get the book whenever you go for the in-person board review. Now, I do know that they have different options because of COVID and virtual seminars and things such as that, so you can still get your hard copy book mailed to you and attend the virtual session, and it's kind of the same thing. For me, I don't learn from lecture. Now, I know this is a review, so you shouldn't be learning everything. This should be a review, and what I love is that all of these people who come in are so enthusiastic. That is one thing that I will give them, is the in-person board review. Although I don't learn from lecture, they definitely keep their lectures exciting. I just don't benefit from going in person. Now, if you benefit from someone, you know, giving you tips and like talking to you as a group and lecturing, then of course going to the in-person seminar is definitely, you know, would be beneficial to you. But for me, I don't learn in that way, and so the book, just having the book is what was like a big deal to me. So basically, just to recap, with dental hygiene seminars, you pay for an in-person seminar. You can either attend the seminar virtually or online now that they have the COVID option, and you get this big giant book, and again, they are ever evolving the book, and I just really love these people who run this company. Because of my position and my platform, I have interacted with all of the different board reviews. all of them. I just can't reiterate enough how nice and student-centered this company is, and that's why I think other companies such as Dental Post, Dental Hygiene Nation, Teeth Talk Girl on YouTube are all aligned with dental hygiene seminars. And again, I get no compensation from saying all of this, so you can know, this is exactly what I think that you guys should go for if you are choosing on an if you want to do an in-person board review. This book was amazing. I definitely used it. I read it cover to cover, and I definitely think that it was a super, super useful resource if this is how you learn. So this is Student RDH's new book, and I love, because my book from last year was not spiral bound, so I love that this is spiral bound. So let me cover what you get with Student RDH. Now, Student RDH has a whole bunch of packages. You can get just the online package, you can get the online and the book, which I think is called the Success Package. This is a completely different modality than talking, to an in-person board review. Now with this, you're getting a full online package. So you have full online courses. I have a video that I will link right here that actually shows you the online course. I no longer have access to that because I'm not studying for boards. I already aced it. So you get full online access. You can do different modules. You can take different quizzes at the beginning and the end, which is a feature that I love. You can take pre and post tests. The tests that you can take, you can take a quiz, do the whole entire course, and then take your quiz again and see how you're doing. It lets you continually retry quizzes and see how you're improving. And then of course it has a giant mock board exam. Oh, and one more thing that I will say about dental hygiene seminars is they do have an online mock exam that you get with that as well. The main difference between these two is that one modality you can go through, you can quiz yourself, you can interact with the information more. The one thing that I will give Claire from Student RDH is that she has all of this information. She has diagrams built in. Her book is highly colorized, and what I love about how she designs her book is, if you can see right here, she has all of the notes here, and then she'll have little tips to help you remember and diagrams on the side. So it's kind of like Cornell notes, if you've ever heard of that. We have all of the notes right here, and then we have little extra help on the side. So I do love that. I feel like it's super student focused. I absolutely loved using this. Again, my main two things that I did was the dental hygiene seminars. I went to their in-person board review. I will say that I left early though, because the lecture was doing nothing for me. I did use that book a whole lot. I did use the dental hygiene seminars book more than I used Claire's book, and I will explain why in just a bit. But I did love the online format of that. So I loved being able to go in and complete each thing, and on the side it'll have all the different modules that you need to go through. And so I loved checking off each module. The thing that I love in her book is that she has a section for notes, and she also has a little calendar for your study calendar in the very beginning on how you can, do your study schedule. And I love how at the beginning of each section where you can list your study dates, and I actually did that when I used her book, so you can keep track of how often you're studying. Also the quiz 1, quiz 2, and then your book score. You generally have 2 quizzes for each module online, and then you also have a book quiz as well, which I love, because I know some people like interacting with physical information more. So for me, that's what I love about Student RDH, especially the Success Package, is that you can have the online format while still having the physical book. Now, let me talk about the differences between these two books, because I do think that it's important for you to know. I think the reason why this book is so much thicker, the Student RDH book is so much thicker than the Dental Hygiene Seminars book, is because there is so much more information. And that's not necessarily a good thing, if I'm being completely honest. The major difference that I see in Student RDH and in Dental Hygiene Seminars is that Student RDH has all of the information. Let me give you an example. Okay, here's a great example, epiphyllus fistulatum. If you don't know what that is, it is where you have a denture in and the friction causes excess tissue, okay? So Dental Hygiene Seminars definition of this is a fibroma around the denture, especially a poor fitting denture, and you need to excise the tissue and remake the denture as treatment. Well, Student RDH says it's inflammatory hyperplasia caused by prosthetics such as removable dentures. Usually appears in the vestibule along the denture border from ill-fitting appliances. Affected surfaces can be ulcerated. Excess tissue may be needed to be surgically removed. So a major difference that I see between dental hygiene seminars and Student RDH is the detail in Student RDH. It's just so much detail that it's almost overwhelming. Dental hygiene seminars will have a bulleted list of all of the inflammatory soft tissue lesions. So dental hygiene seminars will have like a bulleted list, right? But Student RDH has more of a paragraph per section. You know what I'm saying? So in dental hygiene seminars, the epilus fistulatum has 2 bullet points, but for Student RDH, it has like 3 or 4 bullet points and it's long sentences. So for me, when I'm looking at the 2 books, I really do prefer the dental hygiene seminars just because it's bulleted, it's short, it's concise, and it is more of a review, whereas Student RDH feels more like textbook definitions for each individual thing. So dental hygiene seminars is more like, here's the main facts, short and concise, that you need to know, and Student RDH is more like, here's all the details. So I feel like you guys need to kind of choose what is better for you. Do you want a short bulleted list as a review, or do you need something more in depth, or is that overwhelming for you? For me, I would think that the Student RDH book would just be a bit more overwhelming, whereas the dental hygiene seminars book, while it's smaller and you may think that's bad, it's actually, in my opinion, more beneficial for me because I've already learned all this. I don't need the little nitty-gritty details. I just need the facts, the bullet-pointed facts. Now, that might be different for you. You might want all the details to help your brain comprehend it. For me, I just want short and sweet, to the point, and move on. Now, the last book that I studied with is Darby's Comprehensive Review. This is a mammoth of a book, okay? But it does come with online access that I do think can be beneficial. If you can get this for a good price, I would go for it just to supplement it. They have end of chapter questions, like a ridiculous amount of end of chapter questions. A lot of those questions were very similar to the board's exam as well. This is just a lot more textbook feeling and a lot more, just like the questions are a lot more complicated than the dental hygiene seminars and the Student RDH practice questions. These questions are a lot more difficult. I definitely don't think it's necessary, but I do think that if you want to add something in and you just want to be practicing different questions, even if you don't get the online access, the end of chapter questions in this book is really, really good. So I kind of want to review a little bit because I know that was kind of a lot. I really think that when you guys are making your decision based on what board review you want to do, you really need to choose how you study best. Luckily for me, I was able to study all these different modalities so that I could figure out what was best for me, and I hope that me giving you the details on that, you can figure out what's best for you. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about when I started studying and how long I think that you need to be studying. So I started studying in January. That's when my board review was, and I was supposed to take my Nbdhe in April. I do not recommend studying before that. I don't recommend studying more than 3 months, really preferably 2 months before that, because you're gonna burn out. What I did is I kept an ongoing list, and every time that, so I would have a list of like oral pathology, periodontology, all of the subjects on the left, right? And then every time that I studied an hour, I would keep a tick mark. So that's how I organized my studying. I would keep a tick mark of every hour that I studied, and I wanted to study like 30 hours per subject, and even more for like pathology, periodontology, and all of those like pharmacology, all of those like really important subjects. So that's what I focused on. I just kept an ongoing list, and every day I would study 1 more hour. I would kind of do it at an hour at a time or like a session at a time. It's really hard for me to focus on more than one subject. So I would take like a Saturday and I would study half the day. So like 4-ish hours I would study for pharmacology, and then I would take a break, and then the next 4 hours I would study for like periodontology. And that's how I kept track of how much I'm studying. As I was studying and I was going through the modules, of course I would take those before quizzes from Student RDH, and then I would go through the modules or I would study in the book. As I came up on facts or different things that I didn't necessarily remember from school, I wowould write it down on a whiteboard. And as I was writing that down on the whiteboard, I would just write down all of these facts on the whiteboard so that I could come back to it and reprogram it in my brain almost. So I'm reading through a chapter, right? I'm reading through a chapter and I'm like, oh, I totally forgot that the pH of this is whatever. So then I'll write down on the whiteboard, the pH of this is blah, blah, blah. So then I continue to go through the chapter, and I have a whole whiteboard full by the end of the section of facts and things that I need to know. If I think that, you know, I'll remember this, then I erase it. If I think that I need to remember this more solidly, then I'll write it down on a piece of paper. So yeah, that's what I would do as far as studying and keeping track of how many hours I did. I think it's really important to not put too much pressure on yourself. Don't overdo it. Don't overstimulate yourself. Like, don't kill yourself doing this. Yes, you need to study a lot, but you have learned this, you have been tested on this, you have been in school for 2 years at this point. So when you sit down to study, don't think of it as overwhelming. Think of it as like preparing yourself for your future. Like, I know that it's really, really stressful, and I know that it can be very, very overwhelming, and you think like my whole life between now and my future is riding on this test, and in some aspects like it definitely is, but if you study and you are diligent and you go through these modules or you go through these chapters and you are really diligent and you really keep track of how often you're studying so you can see how many hours, like if you study a few hours here and there and here and there and you're not actually keeping track of it, you don't know how many study hours you're putting into each subject. You need to keep track of that for sure. So I would definitely keep a running list or a tally or a tick mark or something of that nature. Be able to keep track of how long you're studying for each individual subject, because I think that's really, really important. Again, whenever you see things where you're like, oh, I should probably know that. Oh, that's a fact that I didn't remember. Write it down. It doesn't have to be on a whiteboard. Write it down on a piece of paper. So then you have this big long list of like facts and things that you think are important that you need to remember. So one other thing that I wanted to mention, and this is, I love Student Rdh, like I really, really do, and I support her. It was definitely, definitely beneficial. But another thing that I will say about that is that I really feel like the chapter review questions and the mock board specifically for dental hygiene seminars or the Nbdhe app, because those are very, very similar. I actually think he used to work for dental hygiene seminars, so that's probably why they're very similar. They were much more similar to the board's exam than the Student Rdh mock board was, if I'm being completely honest. I still love Student Rdh, and I think it's amazing, amazing material, and I think it's amazing detail and the modules and everything of that nature. But when it specifically comes to the practice questions that you have, I definitely think that dental hygiene seminars or the Nbdhe app is very, very similar. So if you really, really want the online Student Rdh board review, I would definitely do that in combination with another app so you can get different questions, so that you have Student Rdh for the meat and potatoes of the material. You have all of her practice questions in the mock board exam, but then you also have another modality that's not too expensive because it's an app, and you can practice with those questions as well. There's also a crap ton of questions on Quizlet also, so you can also go on there. I would definitely, whenever you have done the meat and potatoes of your studying, I would definitely be doing practice questions, mock boards on every different modality that you can, so that you can be exposing yourself to all different types of questions. And I think that it's good to get that from different sources, whether that's from an app or, you know, from Student Rdh or from a practice mock board online or Quizlet. I think that it's really, really beneficial to also practice all sorts of different kinds of questions so that you can be prepared for any different way that something's worded. Again, I do think that the reason why I was so successful on the Nbdhe is because of all the different modalities that I studied. Like I said, I definitely think that you cannot go wrong. I don't think that you can go wrong if you're choosing between Student Rdh and you're choosing between Student Rdh or dental hygiene seminars. It's just how you learn best, how you review best. And then again, let me just reiterate, keeping track of your total study time is so important, because otherwise you will lose track of how much, and you really need to know how many hours am I putting into this subject. You may need more hours for certain subjects. You may need 50 hours for pathology, but only need, you know, 10 or 15 hours for community. So that is how I study for the boards. I know that it's so much information to be condensing down and organizing, so I hope that it made sense to you guys. If you have any questions, you can definitely leave them down below. If I left anything out, I'll definitely clarify that. It's just so much information to organize, but you are going to do amazing. Definitely, definitely stay positive. Don't study the day before the test. Relax. Like, all of that stuff. You have got this. You can do it. You have been in school for 2 years. Just make sure you're putting in the time and you're exposing yourself to all sorts of different questions. You will be great. You cannot go wrong on what you're choosing. Just make a choice for your review program and study it, and you will be totally, totally fine. Stay positive. Keep repeating that information and putting in the time and practicing, and you will do amazing. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I love you so much. I will see you guys on the next one very, very soon. Bye, guys.